All right. Happy Monday, Sammy. How are you?
Happy Monday. I'm doing great. How are you?
Great. I'm great. Did you make it through the weekend?
Yes, I did something so different this weekend. We went to the Del Mar races this weekend.
hmm So
So
for
like
those
a little,
people that don't know what that is,
yeah, it's
what is that?
like Kentucky Derby racing, like horse racing.
hmm
And we had we were in like one of the celebrity suites up top, so it was pretty cool. It was like little secluded area. You could do like betting, and then we went down to like the little lawn area to like watch the horses as they walked by. It was the most interesting experience I think I've ever experienced. I have never been to anything like that before.
Yeah. Was it like so much fun? What did you
It
think?
was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was cool. I don't know. I want to say it wasn't what I expected it to be. I expected it to be like way more uppity, if I'm being honest. Um, but it was definitely super cool to watch. And like, obviously, I guess like when you have money at stake, things are more interesting. So I think that part was pretty cool. But like overall, it was just a really fun experience. And I mean, I guess I can say it probably would have been more fun if I wasn't in prep, but like I still made the best of, the time that I had. So
Oh yeah. If you're out of prep, you could have indulged in a little mint julep action, something like that.
yeah, just like little spritzers and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Get a little day drunk going on.
Yeah, a little buzz.
Well,
But yeah,
fun.
it was cool. And I mean, it's always nice to go to an event and like I literally packed my food in my purse and, everything was fine. I had like no issues, but like everybody that we were sitting with and like surrounded by was like super supportive of me bringing my food, and like if they had questions like they asked, but like pretty much like once I kind of explained like I'm competing and I have a show in a week and a half, like they understand. But that's always nice not to have to feel like a burden.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Company definitely matters. And yeah, I'm glad you had a good experience. So, you're what, 1.5 weeks out from your next show? Is that right?
Yeah, I compete on the 9th. So what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 11. Oh shit, that's not a lot of days. I'm like, oh fuck.
hmm
11 days out. That's cray cray.
hmm Yeah. And
But
then you have Nashville the week after. And then
yeah,
what's the one after that? I'm forgetting it.
nothing right now. Tentative
Okay.
Arizona, but it really
Okay.
just depends. Like,
Depends on the
those are
feedback.
the only two I have booked. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. Well, I'm super excited for you. So for today, why don't we recap your Patriots Challenge experience? And I think we can also kind of recap a little bit of the NPC USAs that happened this weekend in Anaheim.
Yeah, for sure. So Patriots was in Vegas. For those of you who don't know, it was my first show of the season. I'm trying to like pull up the
Yeah, I was gonna say if you want to take a sec, maybe we can grab the NPC News Online photos or any
yeah,
photos you have in screen share.
airway.
So winning, I'll just kind of chat while you do that, Sammy. So winning that show, we had Alice, who's coached by Jamie at Fit Body Fusion. We had Ashley K in second place, which is always a surprise if Ashley's not winning a show. And then we had Tamikia in third place, and she's a past Olympian. So she's still one of the athletes that needs to qualify. For Alice, this was her first time qualifying. This was her first win. She had taken a really long off season from her last show. I think her last show was 2022. So super exciting for her. She looked great, and it was fun to be there with you and your sister, Sammy. So
Yeah.
we had a good time. You looked great. You definitely had a different stage look that we'll talk about.
Yeah.
I saw Dan Bilzerian at the gym on Friday night. That was interesting. Yeah, I went to Dragon's Lair on Friday night, and Dan Bilzerian was there with his, I'm assumed, girlfriend or top bitch or whatever you want to call it.
Flavor of the hour.
I think she's his actual girlfriend, just because I've had a friend that's worked for his company Ignite before, so I felt like I knew too much about him. I didn't want to like make eye contact or be weird. But yeah,
so
so it was a fun weekend. It was an interesting weekend for sure.
Yeah,
It was about 1,000,000 degrees in Vegas as usual.
oh my God, it was so bad. Like I'm it's like I'm used to that. I don't mind that. But when it's freaking when you have a tan and you're trying to walk and get your tan and not die of heat stroke, you know, it hits a little different.
Just waiting.
Okay, so these are comparisons. I think these are first look comparisons though. But yeah, I mean, overall, the show itself, I think, was great. Great experience, great weekend. Muscle Contest always puts on a great show for their pros. They really take care of us from the second we get to check-ins to, you know, throughout the show. All of the ladies backstage were super, super sweet. I knew a couple from past shows. So I really was kind of feeling that like little kid on first day of kindergarten. Like, I don't really know anybody, but let's see how it goes. But, you know, I feel like that's everybody always kind of worries about that, I should say, on like maybe not everybody. I don't know. I do. Cause like, I don't know. I like that like feeling of like having somebody backstage, like, you know, and it wasn't as, I guess I didn't spend as much time backstage because I got there like just a smidge late, but everyone's just like super sweet, talking in line, like helping out where, you know, if you need it. So it's always just nice to have like someone that you really know backstage or like you kind of know or more familiar with. But and that's kind of like you can kind of gauge at check-ins who you can talk to more backstage, right? So it's like typically the way check-ins goes for pros is very similar to amateur. I feel like maybe it's a little bit like more intimate, I guess, obviously because there's less of us, but
and we know if we don't know each other, we usually know of each other.
Yeah, exactly. And two, we get a list. Nobody else, like at the amateur level, you don't really get a list. So you kind of have an idea of like who you're about to see when you get there. So it's like we sit down, they do their little spiel, they kind of explain everything. They give us like our little goodie bags if they have one. And then we go and take photos. So it's kind of that time at the photos at the end where everyone starts like mingling and chatting and things like that. So that's kind of where you really, I guess, get to gauge like who knows you, who's heard of you, who you've heard of, and things like that. So it's always nice.
Yeah, it's funny when you say it like that. Like, I almost thinking about it, it's like the pro check-ins. It's almost like that feeling of like being in the lunchroom at high school or something, or in school, where you're like, okay, who can I sit with? Do I have to sit by myself? Do I have friends?
Yeah, that's literally
who's gonna be nice to me?
It's seriously how I feel every single time.
But the thing is with it too is like for me now, it's like I've competed 3 years as a pro, taking this year off, right? So now my 4th year as a pro officially. It's the more you compete, I feel like for you, Sammy, this is only the beginning of your 2nd year competing as a pro.
Yeah.
The more shows you do, the more you share, etc., the more people know who you are. And it's like the more friends you have, like the more you'll make friends. Like you probably made some friends or connections at this show, and then you'll do shows with them in the future. You'll see them at the Olympia or things like that. And it's like those bonds, they just kind of grow over time. So I feel like it gets less and less like that. But yeah, especially like I remember my pro debut, which was also Patriots. I remember sitting down and being like, I knew I had Body by O teammates at the time, but I was looking around like, okay, who is everyone? Are they going to be nice? Like, how is this going to be? I don't know. This is kind of weird.
Yeah. And that's literally, and it's like you see familiar faces, but like maybe they're with their coach or maybe they're with their teammates. So they're not necessarily like, you're
friendly.
not the person they're seeking out. Yeah.
Or they just like, they're in a mode where like, they don't want to, they're in business mode. They're focused. They don't want to talk to you, or their coach doesn't want them talking to you. So
yeah. So it's like,
some of the pros don't speak English, so they might not be, it's not that they might not be friendly, but they just might not be able to communicate with you.
Yeah. And that's actually, it's funny you say that because that's actually something I feel like I am realizing more and more that it's like you're getting girls from literally all over the place now. So it's like that language barrier is a thing too, something to think about. Okay, so I do have the first call out photo here. And then, sorry, these photos are like in a really weird.
Do you just want to pull up maybe some individuals?
Oh, yeah, we could do that
So we can
too.
see your suit and your hair that were a little different from the past. Spoiler alert.
Try not to think about it.
What? The hair?
My hair.
The hair,
I feel
okay,
like.
Sammy, the hair looked great. So I know
Thank
maybe it was
you.
different than what you're expecting, but the hair looked great. So
I also feel like.
I wouldn't stress on it. And now you tried it at least. Like at least you tried it once on stage.
Yeah. I also. Okay, we'll just use this photo as the photo we don't have a lot of. Okay. So this is just me. Let's share screen. Okay.
Here we go.
All right. So this is the package I brought to Patriots. Brand new suit, Toxic Angels. This is the Toxic Mermaid fabric with our Bermuda Blue Stone, Blue Zircon Shimmer, and there's one more, I think. Let's see.
Does your suit have a code, Sammy? That might be easier
It does,
for people to remember.
I'm pulling that up. It is TFS 264.
Nice.
And yeah, let me see if I can.
So let's just talk, definitely pull up the suit details. But before we maybe jump into that, or while you're looking it up, your waist to hip ratio looks nuts in this photo. Like it looks so good.
Thank you. I am honestly really shocked. So like I've kind of hinted at it, and this is just me being like super real, super transparent. Not something I'm proud of, but I'm going to talk about it because I know a lot of people maybe are nervous of this happening or it's happened to them, but I didn't take my off season serious whatsoever. Like when I tell you it was an off season, like it was an off season, not a growth phase. Well, like it was in hindsight, but like I really truly just like didn't follow a reverse. I'm pretty sure for the whole month of January, I was like sick on and off, didn't go to the gym. So definitely didn't take it as serious as I could have, but still took it serious. So I was just really like nervous and excited to see what package I was bringing to the stage this year, because I always had this thought in the back of my mind, like I kind of blew my off season, 8 months of growth, potential growth. So to see this and to see how I look on stage, I'm super happy with it because I know that the hard work that I did put in still, you know, translated and something came of it. But it makes me wonder, like, if I actually took all 8 months serious, like what even better of a package could I have brought? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is not me saying don't take your off season serious and then hope for the best and maybe something good will come out of it. It's me saying I am now reflecting on the 8 months that I didn't take serious. And now I'm like, wow, I have that what if in my brain. What if I took it serious? How much better could I be? How much further along could I be? And I'm not dwelling over it. I'm reflecting on it and fixing it for the future, because now after this season, I will be taking my reverse serious and I will be taking my off season serious, and I will be treating it like an improvement phase, not just time off.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people kind of go through that. So it's like, even, you know, maybe it's not as prominent at the pro level, but it happens, you know, pro or not.
I mean, Sammy, I think it's way more common than people realize. Even for myself, I have those feelings right now. It's like right now I'm going through this phase where I'm working on my gut health. And largely, I didn't know that my body was having such a strong response to gluten. But it's like, I think back to all the weeks where every weekend I would go eat a burger and fries and get a crumble cookie. All those things that I was doing were actually like harming my body and I wasn't really aware. I think about how much more progress I could make because I'm in this healing phase because I've had so many off seasons over the years that were very productive and I can be very focused when I want to be. And it's like, I mean, Sammy, I'm having the same feelings right now of like all those months were those just wasted months where my body was inflamed and not responding. And, my training was probably suboptimal. So I would say don't beat yourself up because you did make some huge improvements from last year. But it's natural when we're an elite athlete or we're elite at anything we're doing to, be really critical sometimes and fixate on every little thing we could have done or should have done. But the reality is we can't go back and change the past.
Exactly. We can only learn from it and then change how we view things or do things moving forward. So,
and I'd be so excited too to see like a side by side because you've put on size. Like even though maybe it wasn't the best off season, like you've put on size. Your muscularity is better. Your shape is only getting better as you build your shoulders, you build your glutes more. So I think for me, I thought you looked awesome. Do you want to talk about maybe what like the experience of the show was, or maybe the feedback that they had for you after competing?
yeah, so experience, it was a great show. Again, the reason I did this show, because this show I was on the fence about, but I was happy that my first show was Muscle Contest because I am from Southern California. It is comfort, it's home, it's who I competed at the amateur level with. So it's kind of nice to have that as a first show because I know the way the show runs and things like that. So it was comfort, which was nice because to get my jitters out. I knew going into this show that I was not conditioned properly. I was kind of there, but I wasn't 110% there. So feedback in general was conditioning, coming a little bit tighter. They wanted more pop in the delt insertion, so right here, and more upper glute as well. They also kind of said that's going to come with more conditioning. Muscles pop more, obviously, when you're conditioned, when you're lean, when there's less body fat, the muscles, more closely against the skin to show the fullness there.
Yeah, for sure.
So again, the feedback was exactly pretty much what we expected it to be. And that's kind of, we took that feedback and we were like, all right, so from here we have 3 weeks until 2.5 really until Texas Pro. So it's like, is that achievable in 2.5 weeks? Which, yeah, you can get leaner in 2.5 weeks. You can, things like that. So that's kind of what our determining factor was of, are we going to do Texas Pro and Nashville? So kind of just staying the course of, what I'm doing. Not really much has changed. But yeah, I would say overall it was a great experience. I love the way Muscle Contest runs their shows. Everything is just super organized. Everyone's on the same page. Everyone knows what they're doing. Expediters are super sweet. The judges were backstage to get feedback. So overall, it was definitely a great experience between the girls I was on stage with, the promoter, just everything in general just worked out.
Good.
Exactly how I expected it.
Awesome. Yeah, I think you looked amazing. So it's just, getting a little bit leaner, especially when we're already in prep. And I also think when we're taller, we can tend to shrink up really quickly when we are in that mode. Like I have no doubt that you're going to bring an even better look for Texas. And it'll be really exciting because you really did make improvements. Your shape here looks nuts. Like you look like the trophies that they give out at the shows. So it was a lot of fun to watch. It was a lot of fun to carpool out there with you and your sister and go see, your husband, your stepson after, like we went to the dirt races. I don't know what you call that after.
The sprint car races. And so I took Laura to the most interesting, from being in Vegas, first of all.
Yeah.
For being at a show in Vegas, all of the opportunities or the options that we had for post-show experience was the complete opposite of what we ended up doing. So the nice thing about being a pro is you have an exact stage time. So finals started at 3. My stepson does dirt car racing, sprint cars. And that was like literally 2 hours away from us in Vegas. So it's here local to Southern California. And he didn't know it, but I knew that I was going to be done earlier that day. And so we drove literally as soon as the show was over, we packed up and got in the car and drove and went to go see his races. So instead of a big post-show meal with a sweet treat and a night out in Vegas, we went and watched dirt car sprint racing. So that was super interesting, but it was super fun. It's, it was really cool to bring you, because that's like, something we pretty much do every weekend or every other weekend. So you and I usually are just like strictly like business, fitness, posing, podcasts, things like that. Mm-hmm. So to have you there was really cool, just to kind of like show you how, like what else goes on, and have you involved in that too, with like family.
It was super cool. So I definitely appreciate you bringing me. And I always love like just having a new experience, right? Seeing a whole little world or microcosm that I'm normally never exposed to. It's like I have this idea in my head when you talk about it, and you've got all your, your flag vans and Stanley Cup and stuff like that. So it was cool to actually go. And it's like, especially too for you, it's like, if you don't need a post-show meal, I definitely don't need one. Like it's your show weekend. And I always think the athletes should choose what they want to do post show and stuff. So it was a great time, and we got to go home and sleep in our own beds that night. So who doesn't love that?
Yeah, and the hotel was definitely interesting too.
Interesting.
I'm gonna take me off the screen here. Put this back up. Yeah, it was definitely interesting. Like, it was a nice hotel, don't get me wrong, but not at all what I expected. But it did have a little kitchen, so that worked out perfect. So it did the job, right? It did what it needed to do. Only because we touched on it before about the package. This was the first show, and this is the last. I swear this is the last time I'll talk about this. This was the first show I've ever done where I kept my hair straight. And I wear my hair typically straight every single day of my life. Like, I curl it once in a while. Never have I ever worn straight hair on stage. And it tripped me up. And this is one of these things, like, lesson learned: if something doesn't go the way you anticipate it on show day, take it and run with it. Don't stress about it. It's literally not that big of a deal. Mm-hmm. I guess I got my timing wrong in terms of like getting ready in the morning. I always do my hair myself, just because I know how I like my hair curled. My coach's wife, Stacy, did my makeup. So we kind of had that time scheduled based on what my tan time was. And 2, I know how long it takes me to curl my hair. So I was like, all right, cool. I need an hour for makeup, and then, 30 minutes for my hair, and, plenty of time to get on stage. Well, makeup took a little bit longer. I also got to their room a little bit later. So it just, whatever. So it turned out that I had 30 minutes to get backstage, still needed to put my suit and my jewelry on and everything like that, and my hair wasn't curled yet. So I'm literally panicking, like, straight hair. I just like was beside myself. But everyone was like, it looks great.
It looked great. And the thing is now, because you've got the same suit, right? So now you'll have different photos from your shows where it's like a curly hair, a straight hair. I thought it looked great. I think straight hair too. It's a little edgier. I know you said you feel more spicy with the curly hair, but I think curly hair is a little more feminine, a little more soft, and straight hair is like a little more bold, like in your face, like I'm here. Let's go. So I thought it looked great. And now you'll have photos of different looks, your last suit, your new current suit, different hairstyles. So I think it's never a bad idea to mix it up a little on stage. And I think your advice is spot on. If something doesn't go perfectly right on show day, do not freak out. Like, do not freak
Yeah.
out. Stay calm, because if you go into freak out mode when you're in that fight or flight response, like if you go to that place, your brain's ability to think creatively and problem solve shuts down, because you're literally just in that animal brain fight or flight response. And so, for example, like your example of the straight hair, my opposing client Marissa, who won the overall the other week and just competed at USA's, her tan was turning green before she went on, or like in between prejudging and finals. And she decided to just wash her tan off. Nobody told her to do that, but she just decided, she's like, my tan's looking green. I'm just going to wash this off and ask them to spray me again because my tan was green. And she stayed calm. She did that. It looked great. And then she won the overall. So, but she didn't freak out. You know, she just did it.
Mm-hmm.
She could tell that something was off. She went with her gut. And so it's kind of the same thing with you. It's like you knew you only had a limited amount of time and you just made a quick decision so that you could go be where you needed to be at the right time.
Yeah. And two, it's like, then you're making irrational decisions. You're spiking your cortisol levels. You're probably being a raging bitch to the people around you that are there just trying to help you. Like, so I was like, all right, everyone said it looked good. Obviously I would hope they wouldn't lie to me. Like, at this point they'd be like, yeah, Sammy, it looks bad. Do something about it. Or, I wear straight hair every day. Obviously, can't look that bad. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like it was some, crazy out of this world thing. Like I woke up with bedhead and just never straightened my hair a day in my life, whatever. But yeah, it's definitely a lesson learned, and just kind of take it for what it is and then move on with it. And then literally everybody backstage was like, yeah, you look so great. And I'm like, well, thank you. Like, so it's, yeah, we always make it a bigger deal than it needs to be. But yeah, I think overall this was a great experience, great show. I'm really, really, really excited for these next two shows that are coming up. Texas Pro was my pro debut last year, so I'm really excited to come back and kind of see where I stack up. I got 9th at that show last year, so really, really hoping to push top 5 this time. But we'll see who shows up. Again, it's always about, that's pretty much what determines it. So we'll see next week when that lineup comes out.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, ultimately too, it's not always about the placing. Obviously we want to place, we all want to win, we all want to place really well, but the thing is, it's also, bodybuilding is also about improvement. And it's like, if you're improving on your look, which I'm 110% sure you will improve upon, you're moving in the right direction, right? These lineups right now too, that's the tricky thing. And like we've been like looking to see if the Tampa Pro lineup is out yet. These next shows coming up, they're gonna be fairly stacked, because we have about less than 6 weeks left before the Olympia qualification ends. So there's a lot of Olympians that have not qualified yet. So these next several weeks, they're likely going to be more competitive than they have been the rest of the year so far. Like, this is crunch time, right? Like, our friend Jess Wilson has to qualify. Tamikia, who is 3rd, she's a past Olympian. She is not qualified. Jordan Fisher, like Masa, like there's so many people that have not quite qualified yet. So you can't control who else shows up. All you can control is yourself. And if you're improving, you're moving in the right direction.
Absolutely. And that's what I've been telling myself too. Like, obviously I'm going to set a goal for myself of at least top 5, but like, truthfully, this season is like really just about the feedback. Like, what is my feedback? Like, am I on the right track? Is there something bigger that I need to focus on? Is it just size in general? Is it, and I feel like with Patriots feedback being conditioning, I feel like these next 2 shows are going to be the shows that I get actual feedback of, like, improve on this, like very specific, because I'm going to be lean enough for them to see everything, for them to give me more, more in-depth feedback. So
for sure. Yeah. I'm very excited for it. So, yeah, I can't wait to see you do your thing. It's going to come up fast. So yeah, should we talk about USAs? We were both at USAs this weekend too.
Yeah, let's do that. I will say first and foremost, and we've kind of been like subtly hinting at this, these national shows are literally getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah. Yeah,
And it's crazy.
It is. I'll try to link. There was a really great episode of the Pro Physique podcast that I listened to a couple months ago where they talked about this, and they even broke down the numbers dating all the way back to 2018 on the national shows. But yeah, they're getting smaller and smaller, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts, Sammy. My perception of this show, because I've been going to national shows now basically since 2018, is it's smaller, but I would say maybe like the average like quality level of the competitor is higher, perhaps. So like the competitors in it, the overall quality is probably a little higher than it was in the past. But this show, for example, was like half as many competitors as when I did my first national show, which is crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy that it's that different.
Yeah, and I agree because I did, and I mean I've competed at the national level for the last year and a half, so or you know what I mean. But it's like sometimes you go to national shows and you're like, should I hate to say it, but like, should you be here right now? Like realistically, should you be here? And I don't feel as though I looked at anybody on stage this weekend and like thought to myself that they shouldn't be on the national stage. Like, were they in a qualifying class that had not a lot of people, so they just naturally qualified? Were they the only person in their class, so they naturally qualified? Or do they have a nationally qualified physique that has potential to turn pro? And I feel like more times than not, that's how I felt when I watched everybody on stage this weekend. The caliber of people were higher, but the quantity was lower.
Yeah, I would say that it's interesting because at the same time, like I think back through some of these shows, like for example, USA's 2019 was my first one, and then I turned pro the following USA's in 2020. There were easily double the girls. Like there were about 30 athletes, give or take, per class, A through H in Bikini. In some of the classes this weekend, we had like 15 per class, which is like crazy.
Yeah.
But that national show, I mean, the quality was pretty good. The one that really stood out to me actually was your first national show, Nationals 2021. Or no, I don't think you did that one. Never mind. I had a different client doing that one. Nationals 2021, where Britt Gillespie won the overall. That was like one of the most impressive national shows, at least in bikini, I've ever seen. Like something about that, I don't know if it was, whoever was left and whoever postponed and didn't compete in 2020 came out swinging in December of 2021.
Yeah.
But that national show was not only big, but it was stacked. Like you still had about 30 girls per class in bikini, and you had girls that look amazing. A lot of these girls are pros now. I remember Noelle Zayer, who does a lot of promos and stuff for Toxic Angels. She got like third that show. I had another client in the A class, so I remember her placing. So it's kind of varied, but there's definitely been a drop off in competitors, and I'm not totally sure why. I have some ideas, but it's not totally clear to me because it's to outsiders, to me, it seems like the sport's growing, or at least the interest in the sport is growing. Yet, why are the national shows not growing?
Yeah. And I feel like that's a really good point because I can 100% agree. Like, I feel like the sport in general is growing, the interest in fitness and things like that, but maybe it's the specific interest of, like, I do feel like there's a big shift in health and wellness right now where it's more on the health and wellness side of it, not the physically competing, that type of thing. It's like very yoga, Pilates, things like that. And then really just focusing on health and wellness and nutrition and healthy recipes and, debunking fast food and all of that kind of stuff. I feel like those are the really big trends in the industry right now. And that is kind of what's mitigating the competition side of it, because it's not, let's train, let's, grow and get more muscular and then now step on stage. It's how healthy can we be on a day-to-day basis and enjoy our life and do these things with health and wellness in mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that. Where do you think that comes from? Is that just the natural evolution of things, or do you think there's anything that's caused that shift?
I want to say,
Or have you just unfollowed or muted a bunch of competitors and now your Instagram feed is different?
yeah, probably it is starting to, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it might just be a natural shift in the industry. What it could be, and this can be a whole nother episode, I feel like it's being talked about more and more is like PED usage in the industry, and people not wanting to compete because they feel as though the only way to be successful in the industry is PED usage. So I feel like that is also a really big thing that's been coming up in the last couple months. Just questions that I see a lot of girls have on like forums and Facebook groups and things like that. Like, I've even had clients come to me and ask me, "Hey, is it possible?" I'm like, "Yes, it's possible." Like, it just because it gets talked about all the time doesn't mean that that's the only option. So I feel like that is another big thing, is like it's talked about so heavily that people think it's like because you do this, you must do this type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that that's probably part of it. For a long time, we've kind of known that male bodybuilding involves PEDs, especially if you're going to be an open bodybuilder, if you're going to go for Mr. Olympia. You're not natty doing that. I think we've known that for a long time, but especially in the last few years, I think one thing I've seen too, and I've even started posting more content about this, but it's more the perspective I like to take is more from harm reduction and just trying to provide a little bit of a perspective on things, because I think those that are enhanced tend to be really aggressive, and sometimes the thinking is very short term. And we're all adults, right? You're free to make your own choices. But I think it's become very normalized because in the last few years, we see so much talk of PDs for women, or people sharing content, talking about taking all kinds of things, everything from like TRT to crazy combos of things like Primo, Anavar, Clen, Masteron, like all these things that I would never even think would make sense for a bikini athlete. And I don't really think all those things make sense for bikini athletes for different reasons. But yeah, I think that's part of it, Sammy. I definitely see your point. And I see it too, because it's like I'll have stuff pop up on my feed where it's fellow coaches and things, and I get it. Like, we're all trying to get views, we're all trying to get clicks. But when we have posts where it's like, rate my cycle, I'm taking this, I'm taking this, I'm taking this, it's like we're kind of glorifying this. Like, we're kind of glorifying this dangerous, illegal drug use that should not be glorified. You should not be doing anything illegal. You should not be doing anything that's not under the direction of a medical doctor. So I think that's part of it.
Yeah, 100%. And two, it's like it's something that's so talked about and not talked about at the same time. So it's like it's so heavily talked about, but the education and the repercussion and things like that aren't what's being talked about. Like you said, it's like, hey, this is my stack, rate it. What do you think? And they're like, hell yeah, that's sick, man. It's like, do you even know what half of this shit does to your body? Probably not. So that's why you think it's cool. Or it's like, again, they think the only way to be successful is to do this without actually doing the research and educating yourself on what you have to do to be successful. Doesn't necessarily need all of this extra stuff. Like, bodybuilding is bodybuilding. Eat food and train.
Yeah.
And it is really that simple.
Literally, it's eat, train, recover. So sleep, take care of your muscles, right?
Yeah.
Stretch out sometimes, go get a deep tissue massage sometimes, go do all those things. The crazy thing too, Sammy, that I realized, because I've now been a full-time coach for over 2 years now, which is crazy. I'm so grateful. And yeah, I just really feel super blessed so many days. But the thing that I realized early on that it didn't occur to me, because I think I just assumed like, oh, if you're going to take PEDs, you're going to, you're going to do all the right things, right? Like, you're already eating the right way. You're already training, you're already sleeping, you're already taking your creatine. and you just want that little extra edge because you want to go to the Olympia or, whatever it is. And I didn't realize until I became a coach, because these ladies are so full of surprises. Like, I had this one master's bikini client who will remain nameless. And she did not, we prepped for several seasons together. And God love her. She was not into taking direction. And so after her first prep, we go back for the second round, and we're going through, I have a little intake form, whatever. And she discloses to me, I forget if this was on the phone or in person or something. She's like, oh yeah, last prep, I was taking Winstrol and Anavar. And I'm like, what? What are you serious? I had no clue, because she didn't have muscles, Sammy. She didn't have muscles, and she would, fall off plan. And so her midsection would get really distended. And the thing that I realized, and she wasn't, so that's just one example, but what I realized is, like, people can be taking these things and look very average, very unimpressive, like very, very natural looking. And the crazy thing is it's like, they're really not a silver bullet. They're not a miracle cure. And it's very possible to still look shitty and be taking all the PEDs if you have bad genetics, but even more so if you're just not doing the right kind of work. So it's mind blowing to me at times.
And I even have a lifestyle client who came to me when they signed up. They were like, hey, I'm taking this, this, and this. This is the stack that I love to use, and I want to continue using it. So there was of course, a whole in-depth conversation, but it's like, you're drinking 4 to 5 times a week. You're not consistent in your training program. You're not eating properly. So what is it the thought of using it that makes you happy? Is it like, what is the reasoning? What is the underlying reasoning behind it? Because you are not receiving any benefit from these drugs.
Yeah. You're literally just compounding the drinking to increase your blood pressure and stress out your liver. Like, you're just increasing your chances of, like, liver failure and some type of cardiac episode from high blood pressure.
Yeah.
That's why that is wild. That is wild for sure. It's like, you're not even competing. Like, why? You're not even doing the activities you would need to look fit. And then you're taking performance enhancers to try to look fit when you're treating your body like a garbage can.
Perform where?
Wow, that is wild. Yeah, we should definitely do an episode on this, Sammy. I had an episode that I put out on YouTube last week. I was considering dropping it because we didn't have a podcast episode here, but I put one out that was just about the potential side effects to our beauty with PED use, because there's a lot of different ones out there, whether it's androgenic or not. And I think there's a lot of interest from women, especially. Like, whenever I do put out content, I'm always very nervous to do it. I always, like, I might create it and I might sit on it for like a month or 2 months at a time because I'm so nervous. But I always get a lot of, I get some hate comments or whatever, but I get a lot of positive feedback because I don't think that the reasonable information is out there. I think it's, like you said, I think it's a lot of glorification, or like, oh, well, if you're natural and your testosterone is naturally low, of course you should take testosterone. When it's like, no, you don't have to do that. So I think maybe we can figure out a format or do a question box or something and create an episode out of that. But the other thing I think too with the national shows is how much more expensive life is right now at this moment, number one. And then number two, the show costs, and everything with inflation has only gone up. So the effects of 2020 economically, with so much money being printed, it's increased inflation a lot. We all know that. So our salaries have not kept up for pretty much across the country. Our salaries have not kept up. In competing, we love it, right? It's our passion. We want to do it, but it's also a discretionary expense. It's not housing. It's not transportation. It's not food. It's not, it's not your cell phone, your car. Like, it's not those essential things that you need. So I think that's probably part of it too. It's just the moment that we're in right now in 2024.
100%. And I think too, it's like, think too, like everyone is in a different phase of life, right? So it's like those people who are younger and getting into competing, they might not have a job that pays that really well. Or like if you're in your mid to late 20s, you're thinking of marriage and kids. So you're, at every different stage of life, there's some different financial expense that kind of over supersedes one or the other. So it really comes down to like budgeting properly or, just things like that. And I mean, we have an episode on budgeting for shows and, the costs and things to expect, but definitely I think inflation and is also another big one.
Yeah. Another idea, this could be fun for the heck of it, is like if we did an episode, Sammy, where we challenged ourselves to get really creative and we did a episode on how to compete for free or something like that. What do you think about that?
That would be fun.
I feel like we could do that. You and I should chat offline, but that could be a fun, because your example is perfect. I have a lot of clients that are, say, like in their early 20s. I even have a client right now who is 16 and she's going to compete in a natural wellness show because she's not old enough to compete in the NPC. She looks amazing. Like she's worked her ass off. She's an amazing athlete. Like she surfs, she lifts weights.
Yeah.
You would never guess, but she's too young to compete in the NPC. So we're going to put her in an OCB show. Her parents are helping support her prep, right? So like I'm working with her too, which is a special circumstance just because like I really feel for her and it's amazing. But it's like, yeah, you're right out of college. You might be working as a Starbucks barista, making $10 an hour. How are you going to pay for your brand new Toxic Angels bikini? How are you going to pay for registering for 3 classes in one show when they're $195 each? Like all those things add up. So that could be a cool episode too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So who knows? I really feel like depending on world events and whatnot, but overall economies, they work in cycles. So at some point we're going to come out of this inflationary period. And a good example too, I'm going to nerd out for a second, is like if you go back to when Jimmy Carter was president, we had similar economic conditions where you had, what was it? You had inflation and you had, what's the term? You had stagflation. I forget what those two things are. I'm going to look this up. But it's like basically you have two economic factors. What is it? Oh, high inflation combined with high unemployment and stagnant demand. So that's kind of what we're in right now. We'll come out of this, and competing, I think there will probably be like a big explosion of interest and entrance and stuff once we have a year or two where economic conditions are a little more favorable. So who knows? What were some of your takeaways from the show? I mean, you were there probably sewing furiously at the Toxic Angels booth. What was that? It was
actually a lot of fun. We had a lot of them were more so in the morning than anything. We switched out a couple connectors, sewed a few tabs down. I think we had to like extra scrunch someone's bottoms. But yeah, I think it's really cool to see there was a lot of girls that I know that I've competed with. So just to see, I love watching national shows because I remember what it was like for me to turn pro. So to watch other people experience that or, for themselves, is just absolutely amazing. So it's always like, that's like watching people get engaged. You just want to cry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's so cute. You want to cry for them. So like, I don't know. That's how I feel when I watch other people turn pro. I'm like, that is such an amazing accomplishment. Like, especially for people who've been competing for years and years and years and, almost making it, but not quite getting it there. So to see that is just awesome. So it was really cool to like actually watch. I know last year I actually went to Vegas for the show. But I didn't get to watch as much as I intended to. I don't remember what we were doing, but yeah, so it was really cool to just kind of give my undivided attention to it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really cool. I mean, definitely it's nice for the ladies too, because 2 years ago, I worked the Toxic Angels booth. It was a 2-day show back then. So we had a lot of furious sewing both days. And when it's a 2-day show as a woman, that means you're buying 3 coats of tan, 2 rounds of hair and makeup, you know, an extra hotel night. So it's nice that this weekend it was like a, you know, women's day, men's day.
And yeah.
But yeah, it was a little smaller. And someone I would shout out notably was Mika, who we did a posing seminar at Metroflex Oceanside where she works. And she's someone you competed with back at Iron Games in 2022. So the thing with Mika, I'm gonna have to ask her to be on the podcast. I think we all knew she was gonna turn pro. Like before her prep had not even started yet or barely started, and we're all like, yeah, she's gonna win her pro card. But she's so darn focused, consistent, diligent. You see her daily on her Instagram story. She's very immersed in the world as a full-time posing coach and trainer. And she was someone where she won the G class. And I think all of us just knew it was coming. So it was very exciting to see her win that and like check that box and see her go on to make improvements and do a pro debut at some point.
Yeah, for sure. And there was another Allegra Sims. I actually competed with her at Junior Nats last year. She's been competing for quite some time now, and it's like getting top 5, like always right there. And she actually just competed at, I think, she competed at Junior Nats and got like 5th place or something like that. And then literally came into the show, filled out, and looked absolutely amazing. Like I had seen her check-in photos. I think she posted check-in photos from the airport. And I saw that and I was like, this is it. Like it's when you see it, like when you know, it's like you see it and you're like, this is it. This is when it's going to happen. So to see that was really cool because I had competed with her last year and, I watched her off season, and she is just, another one like Mika. They have that pro mentality before they even turn pro.
Which is what you need. That's the thing. Like a lot of girls, and I'm going to have a chat with a client tomorrow who has not competed yet, but has told me she wants to win a pro card. And it's like, okay, well, let's make sure that our level of execution matches that of a pro athlete. If that's our goal, then from day one, that's where we should be. And girls like that, Allegra, Mika, they're great examples of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's just really cool to see that. And, there's a couple other girls that I've designed their suits. So they come up to the booth and they're like, you helped me design my suit. And so that is really cool. Just like a full circle moment for that too. Like seeing them so nervous to compete and then seeing them on show day, like talking to them on the phone, ahead of time and about how nervous they are and things like that. And then seeing them on show day in their suit and just how impactful that is. It's just a fun little full circle moment.
Yeah, super awesome. I'm trying to think, did we see any color trends on stage with the suits? I feel like my main takeaway was I actually felt like there was not as much red as I was expecting.
I was just gonna say that. Like naturally I just wanted to respond and be like, there was a lot of red, but then I was like,
it wasn't. I felt like it was very balanced among the kind of jewel tone type colors.
Yeah, I feel like I have noticed a lot of people are branching out a little bit more. Like I feel like red and blue is always that safe color, but like a lot of people are doing more purples and greens. Like I literally designed a suit today and someone used tricot line fabric.
Oh, snap.
For those of you who don't know what that looks like.
I think I did one. Yeah, I did one tricot lime in all of my suit fitting days of like 2 years or whatever.
Yeah. And she was about it. She was like, lime green's my color. And I was like, all right, girlfriend, let's do it. Like, if you're about it, I'm about it. Like, and she was like, real, like, she was not timid. She was like, this is the color I want. And these are the stones that I want. And I was like, all right, we're doing it. Like,
nice. I would also argue to your comment though, I think purple and green are still safe colors. Like the 4 main jewel tones. But those of other than green picking up some popularity with Jen winning the Olympia in it, purple and green, like those 4 jewel tones, right? Like emerald, Kelly green, red, royal blue, royal purple. Those are always safe because they look so good on stage. But these things go in waves. So back in like 2020, when Janet and Laura Lee and a lot of the other top athletes were wearing blue, we had a really big blue moment, like around 2020, 2021. And then we've had a lot of red. Now we have some green. But back in like 2017, back in my, youngin days, we had a lot of purple and green suits on Olympians and top pros. So those are definitely those had a little bit of a moment. I also felt like we saw some lighter colors and things too. A little bit.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are doing like the lighter blues. I don't know if it's like summertime or if it's just like the trend.
Yeah. I don't think there were definitely there was a significant amount of suits. Like in the back of my head, I'm trying to think back. I feel like maybe we saw a fairly even mix of like blue, green, red, purple. And then probably, if those were each 20%, and then 20% of the suits were like these light colors that did not look the best, to be honest. Especially.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. And I noticed that a lot too. People are like, oh, I want something really light because my tan's going to be so dark. And you have to understand, like, if your suit is too icy, too bright, it gets lost. Like, there's a difference between having a shimmery, shiny suit and having a suit that's so bright and shiny that it's almost like
white.
You're not wearing a suit on stage. It's white. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've got to be careful because especially I know Toxic has a suit. I had a posing client wear it once where it was like, I think Ariel Barley was in it for one of the Olympia photo shoots where it's like that baby blue and it looked so pretty in person, but on stage, it's like it almost gets washed out to white. So you got to be careful, ladies, like with the color and not going too light, not putting too many. If you put all AB stones if you put all shimmer stones or all AB stones on your suit, it's going to make it look basically pastel instead of whatever color the fabric actually is.
Yeah, for sure.
So, any other takeaways from USA's or the weekend?
Not that I can think of. I feel like overall it was really good. Again, Muscle Conscious just holds really good shows. It was cool that it was in Anaheim this time around and not Vegas. I wonder if that kind of contributed to like the turnout because it was maybe not as central as it used to be. But I mean, yeah, the next national show isn't until August 31st. I think that's North Americans.
Yeah.
So everybody has a couple more weeks.
Yeah, we got a minute. Yeah, I think that could have been part of it too, because Vegas, the host hotel, right? It's beautiful, gorgeous, but a little pricey. Here in Anaheim, it's right by Disneyland, a very nice hotel. And Vegas, there's cheap hotels everywhere. There's Airbnbs and there's fairly cheap flights all over the country. So you're right, Tammy, that may have impacted the turnout. But it's interesting. I mean, we'll see what happens. And, at some point, I really think if the economy picks up a little bit, we'll probably see more of a resurgence. But it's interesting just because it is such a consistent trend if you actually look at the numbers. So I'll have to find that episode of Pro Physique Podcast too if people are curious to find out a little more, because they really broke it down by the numbers, which was like, and by national show over the years. So it was pretty impressive.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that'll be really cool to see. And then too, just to see like, especially I feel like watching to see the numbers for nationals in December, how that changes too, because I feel like that's like right around the holidays. So I feel like that would be a really good one to watch the trend to see.
Yeah, I feel like that one could be big because that one's Texas. So it's relatively central location wise. It's kind of your last shot before the year's over. So if you're someone who has been chasing that pro card or who's been wanting to step on the national stage, it's kind of like, put up or shut up at this point. So that one is usually pretty good sized. So we'll see. But from here, I think we can sign out and we'll catch everyone in the next episode. So
yeah,
thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe on YouTube or your favorite audio platform. Sharing, subscribing helps our channel grow. We appreciate you guys so much, and we'll catch you in the next episode.